prove to you what you believe is right. So, first major relationship, first love. That's why I say, you remember your first love? Oh yeah, I remember my first love. We was engaged to be married. In the middle of us being engaged to be married, she got married to somebody else. I came home from college to come home and visit her. My stepmother ran to the car. She said, "Oh, you heard about it? You heard about what? You all right?" I was like, "All right about what?" Tracy got married. Oh, I was like, "This got to be a joke." Till I saw her down the street with her new husband. Didn't even speak. All right. Next relationship. Wife got married. Wife tried to kill me for my life insurance policy. Putting poison in my food every day.
What?
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
that trust in women ain't getting no better, is
No,
it?
no, it ain't. No, it ain't. It ain't getting no better at all. Went from that to another relationship. She had an affair with another guy. From that point on, relationships after that point were never good. It was always something. Now, from the sounds of it, it sounded like I had some messed up women, right? It wasn't them. Any woman I would have attracted would have manifested that. Now, I want you to understand something. When you have a conflict and agreement operating in you, it will manifest around you all the time until that agreement is broken. Now, if you look into your life, I promise you, there's some repetition that you could see. There's some cycles that you keep repeating over and over again. There are some same kind of folk that keep showing up. The face change, but they show up. And you've been blaming it on them. You've been pointing at them. You've been saying it's them. It's them. No, it ain't them. If you notice something, you could change the face. But the outcome stays the same. I want you to get that. You could change the face. Outcome stays the same. I tried on, it's like trying on a different pair of shoes. I tried on a whole bunch of pair of shoes, kept getting the same result. I was like, I thought it was all of them until I realized something. One day my teacher was talking to me and he said, name some different types of relationships you've been in. So I said, well, it's family, social, religious, romantic, and I name a few others. He said, now I'm going to ask you something. Who shows up in all those relationships that you just mentioned? Who showed up? I said, me. He said, bingo. If you the one keeps showing up in all those relationships and the outcome is the same, it ain't them. It ain't them. And it wasn't until then that it hit me like a ton of brick. Oh my goodness, it's me. And I would say, it's you. You got an issue? It's really you. It's you. It ain't never nobody else. But what we have been taught in this world, we've been taught to blame it on somebody else. But whatever you see reoccurring in your life, it is being caused by your conflict and agreement. And until that agreement is broken, it will repeat itself. So here's one of the things that we had to do as a part of the assignment, what we call the after party. There's an after party after this party. After party is the work you go home and do. You keep this party going, you go home and do some work. So now the first part of the work I want you to do is I want you to start looking in your life for that experience that you had created an interpretation whereby you said you can no longer be yourself. This is what you said. I can't be like this, or I can't do this in order to prevent that from happening again. It was always something painful that happened that you said to yourself, if I stop being this way, this will never happen again. Or if I be this way, this will never happen again. So you were trying to prevent what happened to you from happening again, so you didn't decide that you could not be all of yourself. Now, that became a habit. As we got older, it got worse. So we get up in the morning, we go to work, and it's common hat to leave part of ourselves behind. We know what part of ourselves we leave behind. Now, every time you do that, you create more injury. You didn't come here to be nobody else but all of you. Integrity is another word that means sound whole, and complete. We all came here sound, whole, and complete. When that conflict and agreement came about, we began to create splits, and every split in our psyche became an injury that needed to be healed. So some of us have multi-personalities. It's not necessarily a bad thing. A multi-personality is just we put down our real voice and we started speaking from another voice. And that voice became stuck in us. And then we created other voices. Then we have like more than one voice. Some of us have multiple voices that we speak in. Because we decided we couldn't be our whole self. So a part of this listening party is that we want to help you find your voice. Your real voice. The voice that is in harmony with your will. With your will. Now, think about this for a second, and we're going to just start talking. When a person writes a will, what do? What exactly happens when a person writes a will? What is the whole thing about?
Leaving stuff behind.
Leaving stuff behind, or really in the future.
Yeah.
You're like projecting it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave money to my children. I'm going to, leave property. So, and then you have wishes that you have where you say, well, in order for them to get this property, I need them to do A, B, and C. So you project a wish for yourself out in the future. All right? I want you to consider this. Before we took on these bodies, we created a will for ourselves. So it's like you have a last will and testament, you have a first will and testament. When we created the conflict and agreement, we got out of order with our first will and testament. What we need to do is we need to find our voice so we can get back in sync with our first will and testament. Now, none of us willed anything negative to ourselves. All of us willed wealth to ourselves. Real wealth. But because we're not speaking from our real voice, you can't get it. All of us have wealth that we put aside for ourselves, for our journey here. We don't have access to it because we don't have our real voice. So we're going to be working to help you find your real voice. Identify your real voice. Distinguish your real voice. Be able to pick out that voice from all the other voices. Don't you hear voices in your head? How many voices you hear in your head on a regular basis? Let's be honest. You hear voices, don't you? Can't count them all. So many voices, they rush in.
That's why I bought some sleeping pills.
Because, all of us have it. We have these voices going all the time. And I say they're in our listening. Now, this is what we thought. We thought those voices were us. That's not you. They are conversations that have been taking place in this world long before you got here. When you got into the world, you came into that listening. You start being able to hear all that stuff that went on.